Yesterday, I redesigned my enclosure for my Makita powered T12 soldering iron station to accommodate a change in the temperature controller used. This is a review of the Handskit soldering station, which is very similar to the Quicko soldering stations that I've been mounting in these enclosures to fit on a Makita battery. You can see that iron there is already heated up to 300 degrees C, and I think this model has a sort of screensaver mode where the temperature bops around in the window there while it's just sitting. It has similar functions to the Quicko iron in that it's got a sleep mode, a boost mode, a power down mode, a battery save mode, buzzer enable and disable. It's got a tilt switch in the handle so that if it's in a sleep mode, just picking the handle up will send it back to its full temperature. It comes with a manual which is partly English, mostly Chinese, and fairly difficult to read. The menu is fairly intuitive, and you get to the menu by holding the encoder switch in for 5 seconds, and when you release, main menu comes up, and it's more stable than what you're seeing on the camera there. Various setup options, actually more in the menu than what's on the Quicko. Doesn't really achieve much more, but there are various things there that you can play around with. I think to get it out of menu mode, again, hold the button for 5 seconds. It's only 3 seconds on the Quicko, which is a little bit more convenient. And you're heading back to a menu that tells you the set temperature. The percentage of that 8% means how much battery is being used. 19.5 volts is the Makita battery power, and there's an ambient temperature inside the case. Now the case I have redesigned to incorporate the larger front display panel, which is a panel that fits on a similar size box as the Quicko. Both these irons came in the same aluminium extruded type case, and I figured they were more similar, just clones of each other when I was purchasing them. The front panel off this one's been taken off. You can see things like the rear panels, just slightly different text, but exactly the same cutout on the rear panel. They come with some rubber feet. The iron itself slightly different. It's still a K-type tip. It's different in that a shorter amount of the tip sticks out the front of the pencil style handle. The handle's a little bit thinner than the Quicko handle, and the tip presses in way back up inside the handle, and there is no nut securing it at the front. I think there must be, effectively feels like you're pushing it up inside a rubber grommet, and it seems to hold it firmly and work quite well. Nice silicon style cable, comes with a Velcro style cable tie, which is handy when you're storing things away. You can see that display there is still just bopping around at the moment. You can set a sleep timer, for example, that if the iron's not used for a minute, it can drop down to 180 degrees. I think the Quicko allows you to set it to 150 degrees. Waking it up, as I mentioned, is just a matter of tilting the handle or pressing the button. There's also a boost mode where by pressing the button, I think if I press that now it's coming up to 350 degrees, which is the boost mode. It can hold that boost mode for a minute or longer depending on what you've got programmed. This Handskit soldering station required a redesign of my original Makita battery housing. The reason for that is with the Quicko circuit board that's contained in this box, the soldering iron connector was not part of the circuit board. It was the connector had a plug on it to plug into the circuit board, and which meant that I could reposition the plug in that lower position on the front of my enclosure, keeping the whole soldering station only as wide as the battery, which I thought was quite neat and gave the product a good appearance. I discovered when I dismantled the Handskit units that they were quite different internally, although they use exactly the same OLED display and coder on the front. The circuit board inside also includes the socket for the soldering iron. The socket's also a 5-pin connection rather than a 4-pin connection on the Quicko iron. Therefore, the circuit board was wider than my Quicko enclosure. I came up with this perhaps boxy, my wife calls it a hammerhead shark approach to modifying the original shape. The shape itself is, the rear shape of the unit is the same as the Quicko unit. This version 2, the actual Quicko front display would also bolt into this enclosure, which would make switching so I could get away with just having one enclosure. The jury's out as to which one looks better. I quite like the grey. That's an original prototype that I'd printed up. Both of them have this 4mm riv nut in the top for supporting a solder stand. Handskit came with this bend up tin plate soldering iron stand, which sort of does the job out of the box. Sprung soldering stand on the top works a little bit better. Otherwise, that's the reason for the redesign. I'm reasonably happy with its appearance. The frontal appearance perhaps looks like a larger display. It would have been nice to have my name on the front rather than Handskit. Functionally, it's very similar to the functionality of the Quicko box that was the original donor soldering station for my original version 1 enclosure. I think I'll continue making version 1 enclosures for the Quicko combination, or if people have got a preference as to which enclosure they use. Some may think this is a good thing, prefer to have that enclosure with the Quicko front panel on it. Each to his own, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I would like some feedback as to which way to go on that. The little booklet is just legible and explains all these menu options here that you won't come across well on the video, but I can assure you it's not missing anything that the Quicko unit can do. It just does things a little bit differently. So you can see the 5-pin socket on the front rather than the 4-pin socket. So that's a review. It's I've got 5 of these irons to make up into this configuration at this point. I was spent yesterday on the computer modifying my original version 1 design to incorporate the wider panel. Printed it off last night and was quite pleased to find that it didn't need any further modification. It's going to be my first production unit for this Handskit style soldering station. This Handskit unit seems to be on par with the Quicko unit, so get out to your shed and have some fun.